531, Tony Khan's worst ideas. We had this because we've done one about Vince McMahon before, and we thought, hey, it might be fitting to look at some of Tony Khan's worst ideas as well.
We picked it because we thought so many people would get on this list because it's almost in fashion to pick on what AEW does wrong or the things that you don't like about it. But we gave the internet a chance, and we're not going to shit on Josh DeBoard. So Josh, grab your tissues, but we gave you a chance to voice your unhappiness with Tony Khan, and your response was just 5. And I said, pick the top 5. Because there's plenty. There was no response. There was no response from a lot of people in the Mothership Facebook group who, took their shots. But I want to tell you, somebody from the Mothership group who actually commented on the Working Fans Podcast Nation of Domination page. And this is a real one from Philadelphia, Phil Allen. He gave us starting AEW, going at WWE, fascination with WWE stars of his childhood, Kenny Omega on top, Orange Cassidy on TV ever. Now, what I like is that Phil did include a couple talking points from the Cornette, universe, but going at WWE, very good one. Do the NWA and just put out a good product. Don't put out your product versus somebody else. I believe you and I talked yesterday about Tony Khan getting former WWE wrestlers, and how when this started, it was going to be an alternative to WWE. It was going to be a chance for indie wrestlers that are coming up to maybe get featured on TV. And it seems like as time has gone on, that has changed a little bit, and it's become a mix of what indie guys have survived versus what WWE guys they've picked up and have made it.
At the end of the day, like Joe said, we didn't get a lot of response to this list as well. But I think that was one of the top things we did notice was the handling of certain talent. I got a couple one-word answers here from people. Scotty Magnum, he wrote exploding ring. So he didn't like that. I get that. That one was kind of a bust.
And the whole reason for it was because when they wanted to do an exploding ring match, they didn't want to do it to the levels that were done in Japan.
Right.
And really, that's the only way you're going to get those kind of looks on an exploding ring match. If you want to see an example of an exploding ring match, I'm not going to say done the right way, but done Onita's way in the US. Look up Onita versus Matt Tremont. It was from last year. Matt Tremont was in the hospital for a week after that, after landing on one of those exploding boards. So they didn't do it right. I mean, it's almost safe for their people they didn't do it right. But if you can't do it right, why do it at all?
The one comment I got was from Matt Lang. He's out there with me on the Bread Wars. I said, what do you not like about Tony Khan? He just responded, I don't like Tony Khan. I said, all right, Matt, thank you for your input.
And let's dissect that a little bit, because Tony Khan being unlikable coming across, what do you think are the things he does that make him most dislikable?
For me, it's social media. It's when, okay, you're going to make a big deal out of these ratings wars. You're going head to head with NXT and all that jazz. And that's fine. And if you're winning, all right. But when you do lose, whether it's a jacked up roster with John Cena and Undertaker or not, just let it go, man. Take the L. You can say, thank you to all the fans who tuned into AEW, or don't say anything at all. That's one of my favorite things to do. When I get fucking beat up, I just shut the fuck up. You know what I mean?
For me personally, the moment that I kind of cashed out on Tony Khan was watch him during that CM Punk press conference. This is a man there's a situation going on in the company he owns right in front of him. And if you want to pick fight or flight, he was flight during that. He didn't address it at all. He didn't stop anything. And as somebody in charge, you need to take care of that situation. And that was especially damaging because look at a year later, they bring CM Punk back, and almost a year later, he is gone for not the same thing, but almost the same thing. You have a disciplinary issue that you could see clear as day coming from that first time. So as a manager, I'm not going to say he's ineffective because I'm not in a management position anymore. So I don't have that, that gravitas to pick on him, but he leaves some things to be desired. And I think we're going to hit that again more in some other people's lists. All right. Well, I'm going to bring you first. The loyal listener of the show, Dave Fabe, has Brawl Out tweeting, talking, booking and Orange Cassidy. So we talked about that brawl out situation. You brought out the tweeting.
Yeah.
The talking is just more funny at this point because he'll come to introduce a show and it's supposed to rally everybody, but it sounds vaguely crazy.
I was just going to say another thing to expand on beyond the Twitter and stuff like that, a particular incident. When you go back to, it was a little over a year ago when NWA had that Women's Evolution pay-per-view, basically they did, and they had tag teams and stuff, and they were putting on these different tournament matches. Tony had loaned out some talent to the NWA, which good on him. But then some people were complaining that I'm trying to remember, but the gist of it was Tony talked about he lent out that talent that he wasn't responsible for paying them. He says it was a gift, and his analogy was this is the equivalent of I bought you a steak dinner and I waited around and you never said thank you. And I always thought, well, if I buy my friend steak dinner, like, I appreciate that, but I'm not waiting for a thank you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't do it because I'm expecting something in return. I did it because those are my friends. I have a little money. We're having a night with my boys. Hey, it's on me, you know? And I don't feel like somebody owes me anything.
I almost feel like in that situation, it's like not that the thank you is implied, but especially in business, if you don't take a minute to say thank you, it could just be that there were so many other loose ends to like tie up or other things to do that the thank you not being said is less of a slight and more of an oversight.
I got Daniel Backley, friend of the show. His ideas were AEW Rampage, TNT title, Exploding Deathmatch, so we heard that again, breaking up Santana and Ortiz, mismanaging Ring of Honor. And he did say, I should say not keeping Ring of Honor separate from AEW roster. So he would prefer there was more of a separation between ROH and AEW. But honestly, I like the mismanaging idea a little better because at the end of the day, you bought this entity, which is great, but you really didn't have a place for it. You know, I mean, you ended up having to keep the same Ring of Honor streaming channel they had. But, you know, there was no HBO Max. There was nothing that you were able to do with this. And it just sounds like you didn't really have a plan. And again, you know, we see what we see. Ring of Honor is a talented, a lot of talented people go, but not many people are watching it.
I don't see mixing the ROH and AEW talent as the downfall. I see the problem as buying Ring of Honor and then just keeping their TV on Honor Club. Like, I don't see how that helps them. At the very least, YouTube. I mean, the NWA got CW, so how come they couldn't go for that kind of syndication? Almost do their own version of what Sinclair Broadcasting did. Almost have them syndicated.
It's been making the rounds, but wow, Women of Wrestling too on syndication is getting better numbers some week than Collision and Rampage.
Not wild numbers, but just better numbers.
Yeah, but just through syndication. So there's an audience there for Women of Wrestling. Now, granted, we had the working fans know about this audience. We know who they might be. We've had a few people show up that whenever we put up a video of a attractive woman that happen to tune in a little more frequently. That being said, you would think that same syndication, it was there for Ring of Honor before. Why couldn't it be there again on some level?
Well, I'll tell you who's not in syndication. He is live, and that is Jake St. John. He brought me a list the other night. He is starting with the Jake rule, not pushing Hook from the start. After that first match, man, he was on fire, and then he disappeared for weeks at a time. 5, whatever the fuck he's doing with Wardlow. At this point, I don't even know. Why would I even get invested in him? 4, allowing Jeff Jarrett and his band of nobody's TV time. I'm going to say except Jay Lethal, but I'm a Jay Lethal fan. I don't hate the Jeff Jarrett character, but I hate who he's surrounded with. Legit turn the channel heat. 3, not cutting Phil's mic or interrupting during his scrum rant. 2, allowing Cody Rhodes to lose the No World title match stipulation match. When Cody Rhodes lost the match, it would never be allowed a world title match. I completely lost interest in him. To this day, I don't care about him. And 1, bringing back Phil from the scrum. So Jake St. John, author of Lips Leave Scars, Night Full of Diamonds. Check him out. We might even have something cooking up soon on his YouTube channel.
I would definitely agree with most of that too. In particular, the Cody thing too is very interesting.
I'm going to bring you another quick list because my brother bought us 3 items. He has tweeting anything, his promos, and giving too many wrestlers office jobs. which is very interesting because that's a double-edged sword. That is both amazing because it gives them, benefits. It gives them genuine stake in the company, but could it have led to issues between between anybody that has an issue with AEW and these wrestlers?
Absolutely. Look, I'm going to give you my list here. I have the Exploding Ring. I have Twitter, now X, on there as well. Stay off it. It just makes you look bad. And his handling of CM Punk, I'm going to go a little bit more into that. And then I had, just because, again, I had trouble because I'm not like, I don't just get negative for no reason. So it was kind of hard for me to pick things out because I don't really pay attention to this. But when I started just looking at people that, man, I think they could be pushed a little better, Keith Lee and Brian Cage immediately came to mind as two super heavyweights that could move. And the argument with Keith Lee being, too, how mismanaged he was in WWE. I couldn't agree more. But what are we doing with Keith Lee now?
Jesse from New Hampshire's list, he's got Exploding Ring, Big Show, Mark Henry, Jericho going through the fake ramp, and booking Orange Cassidy.
The fake ramp.
Josh DeBoard. Tony Khan only has good ideas. Josh, you must have cracked that 9:30 a.m. beer. But let us know some of your favorite ideas of his.
Going back to that mismanagement of Punk situation too, just because I think that's been a big one. I wanted to expand on that just a little bit more too. I have no doubt that Punk was definitely mostly the problem here by his behavior, but there was stuff that happened before that and stuff that happened when he came back with Jack Perry. It just could have been nipped in the bud. That maybe a more professional run organization, maybe that's harsh wording it that way, but would have been able to handle, and you would have still been able to have your biggest star.
I will say, as an employee that sometimes has an attitude problem, you can have an attitude problem all you want, but the right management will kind of hone that in and keep that from becoming a bigger issue. So yeah, it's a little on Punk, but it is also on Tony Khan for just not trying at all, it seems, to really rein it in. It seems like he has the trouble that some people run into when they hit management of wanting to be friends with everybody, wanting everybody to be happy versus everything running as it should. Like when I ran a seafood department, I wanted people to be happy, but I also knew there was just a line that you can't let people cross as far as like doing their job. If they're not doing their job and they continually kind of step that thing, there has to be pushback. It can't always be, come on, bud, what can we do about this? It's got to be like, this has to stop. Sometimes you have to put your foot down, and I don't think that he did it. And Josh DeBoard bringing us his list here. Hiring Punk, that's a good one, you can argue, because if he was never capable of managing Punk, why bring him in? Not booking actual stories, just throws matches together. That is interesting because there are times where they do stories, but I would say a lot of the time it's a match thrown together maybe a week or two. He should never be on screen ever. I agree with you as far as him being like a competent figurehead, but when he comes out and gets the crowd hyped up, nothing is funnier. Scaring off Cody, that's a good point. Something happened with Cody. The situation's never been addressed, never been talked about, and it would be interesting to see what pushed Cody away. Could Cody see that lack of management at the top? Lastly, trying to go after WWE, taking shots and all that. That is a very good point because like we said earlier, come out, be yourself, try not to compare yourself to anybody, and, just put out the best product you can. And thank you, Josh DeBoard, for the list. We said it a couple weeks ago, but RIP to RSH, one of those podcasts we started out with. Really enjoyed what you did. We hope you're doing good, bud. I got not hiring a booker. It's become obvious quickly. Oh, it is coming back. Hopefully we can be a guest on there. We were sad to see you guys go, but we're happy to see you come back. Maybe. Hey, as Tyler Peters would say, we're praying for you, bud. Next on my list, I've got the handling of the CM Punk situation.
Yep.
From the start to the end, I would say you got lucky selling out that building, not announcing him. Next time, just announce it. Go full on with it. Like, the whole situation was handled weird, and any couple of factors could have led to CM Punk leaving. Hiring so many WWE ex-talents. Said it earlier. They were best at the start when they were like the best of the indies, when they were bringing in different people. And then, you need a couple WWE people, I guess. But then the more people that he brought in, It made their roster bigger. And then you silently squeezed out indie talents like Joey Janela. Whatever you think of him, he was a good addition to there. I'm not standing up for Marco Stunt, but he's another one brought in with high fanfare at the beginning. For what? And then quietly squeezed out because their roster got too big. I'm going to put tweeting on the list because you can't be the head of a company and look credible and tweet like that. Like, in comparison, look how Vince McMahon conducted himself in life and how when that came out, that was such a scandal. Not that the tweeting is equivalent to that, but it's that kind of black mark on your wrestling career from something that doesn't apply to the wrestling career. You're hurting your own reputation just for something on the side. And then aiming to compete with WWE. Said it before, I'll say it again. The best way to do it, make the best product you can and just let it compete in the marketplace.
Okay. So as far as top three ideas go here for bad ideas, I think up top two, we're going to definitely be talking about the mismanaging of CM Punk. Yeah. And I think we'll put Twitter, we'll put X, and we're going to talk about how he goes after WWE all under social media as number two, how he conducts himself on social media. And then the third one, maybe just handling of talents.
Yeah, we'll put handling of talent because that could be disciplinary, that could be booking. The thing we want to say before we get to the end of this is we enjoy AEW. We enjoy Tony Khan. We just wanted to do this because I think if you're a fan of something, you can find the faults in addition to the things you like. Now, one thing I like, I didn't get to watch it last night because I was having issues with getting it on my tablet, but starting off Rampage with Mystico versus Rocky Romero, CMLL title match. I think it's a middleweight title, I believe. 2 out of 3 falls. That was a great way to kick off. Having Danielson be the focus of Collision. Great idea. You know, we have an idea for next week. But the following week, I'm going to call it now, Dave, 531, Tony Khan's best ideas. You're going to have to wait till the end of the show to find out what next week's 531 is.
We still got to pick a winner for the...
I know. I'm getting ahead of us here. So now that we've got the Twitter WWE CM Punk handling of talent, what's the first to go?
I think the handling of talent will go because you can argue he's done some good pushes. There's some people that have had good pushes too. It's a problem, but I don't think it's the main problem. I think the main problem was how he handled his top star, and that's what CM Punk was, and how, as the face of the company, he puts himself out there. I think that's our top two to argue.
100%. What's been worse for Tony Khan? I'm going to say, I know a lot of people say the Twitter situation is bad for Tony Khan. I think his number one worst problem was the CM Punk situation. If you had brought him in and handled him right, you could have strapped a rocket to your company. Instead, now what you did is you had a star come in and out within a year, go out in a blaze of glory, have some of the best matches, and the thing that's sticking in people's minds is who's more at fault for this? You like to say, who was wrong here? Was it Punk? Was it Khan? And it's tough because it's like, it's almost like a tug of war for responsibility. They're both equally as responsible, and I think it looks bad on both of them. So I have to go with the CM Punk situation being number one.
I agree, but I think it's because it encompasses almost everything we're talking about. It's the mismanagement of talent when it comes to Punk, and it's even the taking shots in the media. Because here's the thing, Punk was so beloved that when Punk was taking shots at people, listen, you're going to have people that are hardcore WWE fans that were like, you know, fuck you, Punk. But AEW fans were like, yeah, how often were we hearing this? Tell me when I'm telling lies. Tell me when I'm telling lies. But, when you mishandled Punk and you fucking fucked them, then it became a lot of AEW fans within started to be like, I don't know about this. And that all falls on Khan's fault for, again, you mismanaged. You went all in on this, no pun intended, and it fell apart. And if you had maybe managed it better, you wouldn't have been in this situation.
That's an interesting point that like no one of these issues exists on its own. They all kind of tie in together. If we're pushed to pick a number one, because obviously all three of these are the worst ideas. They're kind of commingled. But for the sake of the 531, we have to pick a winner. It's in the rules. AJ's W scoop to your head. Who do you got?
It's a CM Punk situation, no doubt.